Good afternoon. There will now be a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Chief Whip.
Chair, we have just been informed that there are so many guests who are trying to get in at the visitors gallery. And we were then requesting that since there were some difficulties and challenges in processing them, can we have about 5 to 10 minutes so that they are allowed to come in? This is a People's Parliament. So there are many who are still outside trying to flock in. That's all we are requesting. And of course, the decision is yours, House Chair. Thank you very much. It's just a request.
Thank you very much for your proposal, Chief Whip. I think we are pressed with time, and we'll ensure that the staff facilitates their entrance as quick as possible, but we believe that you should continue. And thank you very much for understanding. The Secretary will now read the order.
Debate on vote number 25, Economic Development Appropriation Bill.
Thank you. We'll now call the Minister of Economic Development.
Honourable House Chairperson and honourable members, colleagues in Cabinet, guests in the gallery from business, union representatives, regulators and agency heads, fellow South Africans at their homes. 100 years ago, a boy was born in a village along the banks of the Mbashi River, who as he grew up was a shepherd and a stick fighter, and later a lawyer and a fighter for freedom. On this day, the 10th of May, 24 years ago, that same individual took his oath of office as the first democratically elected President of South Africa. As he took office on that day, he spoke about justice, peace, and the triumph of the human spirit. But he also spoke about the very practical needs of the people when he said, "Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all." These words of Madiba sum up the focus of economic development. It is my pleasure, therefore, to present to Parliament a budget of 1.1 billion rand for the new financial year. The budget will be distributed as follows: 282 million for the Competition Commission to do its work to open up the economy for all. 240 million rand raised from the construction industry for the new Tirisano Fund to finance transformation, including support for black artisans and engineers, small builders and infrastructure. 229 million rand for the Small Enterprise Finance Agency to make loans available to small and micro enterprises under the leadership of Minister Zulu. 140 million rand to the department to unblock investment, provide oversight of agencies, and support the alignment of policy. 102 million rand for the International Trade Administration Commission to pay for the trade investigations and systems needed to support our import and export controls. 35 million rand for the Competition Tribunal, 30 million rand for a Steel Competitiveness Fund to rejuvenate the steel industry, which lies at the foundation of any nation's industrialization, and 15 million rand to the PICC to monitor the spending and construction in the state's infrastructure plan. 1 year ago, during the previous economic development budget, the country's growth rate was only 0.3%. Only 51,000 new jobs had been created, and our development prospects look bleak. The country faced a series of rating agency downgrades. Stats SA data suggested we were in a technical recession. Concerns about state capture and corruption weighed high, with credible evidence of public resources diverted to the pockets of corrupt individuals. Today we see a new optimism, spirit, and confidence in the economy. What President Ramaphosa called a year of change, a year of renewal, a year of hope. Growth last year was better than had been projected, with GDP growing by 1.3%. Stat SA's revised growth figures for the first half of last year, showed that the economy, in fact, did not contract, and a technical recession was avoided. The economy created 102,000 new jobs over the year. International ratings agencies Moody's affirmed our investment grade rating and upgraded the outlook on the state of our economy and fiscus. Business confidence is at its highest in 3 years, and consumer confidence as measured by the BER is at its highest. There's a judicial commission on state capture, and law enforcement agencies are beginning to prosecute persons implicated. The output of the South African economy is now 4.7 trillion rand, and it employs nearly 16.2 million people. However, unemployment remains very high, with about 6 million, mainly young South Africans needing jobs. In this context, then, I want to provide the House with a report on work done by the economic development entities over the past year. And since this is the last budget to be presented to Parliament in this administration, the next budget will be tabled after the general election, I will also cite a few examples of progress over the last 4 years and set out additional steps we will take to address economic inclusion in the year ahead. In the limited time, we will not be able to cover all the work in the past year, and I'll focus on a few areas. The big agreements we reached with merger proceedings with Old Mutual and Chevron, practical ways to help empower small and black businesses, the development ideas we contributed on inclusive growth, the fourth industrial revolution, and the fight against corruption, efforts to deepen African integration, new investment that created jobs and opportunities, work to support the country's infrastructure program, and steps to deal with cartels and abuse by dominant firms, and coordination of trade and other measures. Honorable members, ideas matter enormously in a country's development. Last year, we hosted 2 key conferences and commissioned research to quantify the potential cost of corruption on the economy. The first conference was on inclusive development and industrialization, in which Professor Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel laureate, engaged a group of South Africans to identify strategies to grow jobs in the economy. The second was a symposium on the fourth industrial revolution, looking at the challenges and the opportunities, which is now shaping our focus and our thinking. We publicly released the result of the economic modeling exercise that quantified the damage that corruption and state capture can do to the economy. We provided Parliament with research on trade links with other African countries, including Kenya, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, and the results of a survey on the waste or circular economy, detailing its potential to create jobs and successful projects that we were doing in the economic development family. We devoted, of course, a big part of our resources to competition matters, so we can open up and strengthen the economy. The authorities and the department engage firms during mergers on protecting jobs, supporting small businesses and the growth of black farmers, local industries, opening up fridge space in spaza shops to small bottlers, and locating company headquarters in South Africa. In the last 4 years, more than 65,000 jobs were protected through merger conditions or agreements with government. Commitments were made to create a further 7,400 jobs. The Ministry and Commission have been involved in a number of competition matters, from mergers to cartel settlements. And since 2010, about 11.6 billion rand has been mobilized, either for government revenue through penalties or development funds committed to help small, black, or local businesses in transactions involving Old Mutual, Walmart, Afgri, Pioneer, Coca-Cola, AB InBev, Chevron, and the construction industry, and fines levied on ArcelorMittal, food, and construction firms. A further 11 billion rand was committed by 3 companies for new investment in their operations as a result of these agreements. And one of them will see 6 billion rand invested in upgrading the Milnerton oil refinery here in Cape Town to make fuels environmentally safer. Let me give a few examples of what the agreements mean. Ntombe Katwani, who produces Afro Botanics, a hair product, and Spoom Somi, a mosaic stone producer, have expanded their businesses and now sell products in Game and in Builders Warehouse. Shaquille Parker, a black industrialist, now sells noodle in Game and Macro and is expanding his factory from 25 workers working part-time to 175 workers working full-time. And according to the company, it now has the single biggest noodle line capacity on the African continent. Eugene Havenga of Umlilo Charcoal in Northwest is now exporting to Walmart stores in Chile, New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates, and Zambia. All of them are beneficiaries of the Walmart Local Supplier Fund set up after government secured a localization condition in the Walmart merger. Over the past few years, Massmart has sourced 800 million rands worth of goods from these SMMEs, black South Africans, and they expect to grow these supplies to about R1 billion per annum within the next 5 years. Ketiwe Mhlaba and Bharati Naidu are 2 young workers from KZN who both started as sewing machinists this year in Selrose factory in Tongaat. They're part of 500 new jobs created when Edcon, South Africa's largest fashion retailer, increased its sourcing of local clothing for their summer wear from 42% a year ago to 53%, a result of an agreement made during merger proceedings with the department. These are practical examples of how we're transforming. Coca-Cola South Africa last year bought more local grapes for the Grape Towser drinks and more local glass bottles for its beverages, creating jobs in supplier industries. 2 rival buyers emerged to buy the Caltex business in South Africa. They both agreed to expand black ownership of the company and ensure that the majority of service stations are owned and operated by local entrepreneurs. If the Chinese company Sinopec wins the bid, they also will sell South African goods in the shops across the Sinopec garages in the People's Republic of China. Last year, honorable members, we engaged Old Mutual on a proposed transaction that, subject to shareholder approval, will see the company coming home from London, use the JSE as its primary stock listing, and make Joburg the global headquarters of its biggest business. And through the engagement and agreement, they will bring high-level finance jobs from London to South Africa, commit to a new fund of R500 million for developing small business, ensure that no jobs are lost as a result of the homecoming, and take their own BEE shareholding to best class in the industry. In each of these cases, the efforts of these companies to increase local procurement and invest in South African entrance to their supply chains has resulted in new jobs, opportunity for young, small, local businesses to grow, showing the transformative power we are bringing into the economy through the operation of the Competition Act. The Competition Commission also undertook investigations into abuse of dominant sectors, including school uniforms and market inquiries into a number of sectors. I want to report on the work of the IDC, which does not receive any money from the Treasury for its basic mandate, but uses the income from its investment portfolio to finance new investment and make loans to companies. The ministry appoints the board and CEO, sets the investment, development and jobs target, and evaluates the IDC's performance on a quarterly basis. Over the past 4 years, the IDC facilitated roughly 130 billion rand of fresh investment, of which 58 billion is from its own funds and the rest is from private sector partners. This helped to boost the country's GDP, strengthen our industrial capacity, and over the last 4 years, create or save some 85,000 jobs. For the past 12 months alone, the provisional results show IDC investment approvals of 16.9 billion rand with 29,000 jobs created or saved. At the same time, we have refined the IDC mandate to ensure that the growth is transformative and inclusive, drawing in more Black South Africans, young people, and women. IDC approvals to Black empowered companies amounted to 35 billion rand over the last 4 years. But since 2015, we focus more on Black industrialists who run their own businesses rather than simply Black investors getting, say, 10% in a share in an existing business. 3 years ago, I set special investment targets during the budget vote for the IDC, which focus on Black industrialists and women and youth-empowered businesses. And we're on track to meet or to beat those targets. Last year, the IDC approved 7.7 billion rand in funding to 108 Black industrialists. This investment helped Mr. Philip Mulungo, who employs more than 100 people, to expand production of charcoal for the European export market using alien invasive species cleared in the Boland area. Martha Letsoalo is a co-founder of the Heartfelt Project in Northwest, which makes steel products. While the IDC is still working on turning Fosco around, it has now sold the majority stake in one of the 3 score businesses to private investors to give the business stronger opportunity, fresh capital. The efforts of the department has led to significant empowerment of Black South Africans. Let me give a few examples. Through our agreement, Black shareholding in Appetizer went up from 0 to 21%, with new shareholders Stephen Dondolo and Excellent Madlala. Black shareholding in Coca-Cola South Africa will go up from 11% to 30%, including provision of shares to workers in the company. Black shareholding in Chevron SA will go up to at least 29%. And Black shareholding in the construction business of Marion Roberts is now 100% through the sale of the business to a Black-owned consortium. 3 of South Africa's largest construction companies, with nearly 30 billion in local annual turnover, will now work with 7 Black construction firms to up their own turnover. Firms like that of Dr. Thandi Ndlovu, who owns and manages her own construction company. And I think Mike Wiley, her partner, is here today. ITAC worked closely with EDD and the DTI to support the steel industry, a matter I referred to in last year's budget vote. I'm pleased to advise honourable members that one outcome of those interventions has been the reopening of the Highveld Steel complex as a new industrial hub in Mpumalanga, with steel making, training, mining equipment repairs, and coal storage all taking place in the premises, and hundreds of workers back at work. In fact, I think the CEO is here today, Johan is here today. In fact, the industrial complex is now Africa's only producer of railway lines. In the infrastructure space, EDD provides the technical backbone for the work of the PICC, collects data on what the state is doing, unblocks obstacles to rolling out new infrastructure, like helping Eskom to get servitudes for transmission lines over property in Ekurhuleni municipality. But we've also identified opportunities because infrastructure must drive industrialization, like minibus production, like the new rail facility in Mpumalanga. For the year ahead, we will focus on 4 major programs. First, to deepen economic inclusion through the Competition Act, youth measures, social partner agreements, and worker empowerment advocacy. Second, to boost investment in infrastructure and industrial development. Third, to support South African jobs by increasing localization in the economy. And fourth, to prepare our economy for the new technology wave that is called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In December last year, honorable members, we gazetted a competition amendment bill for public comment. We provided information on high levels of economic concentration in different sectors of the economy and noted the damaging effects of economic concentration when it leads to economic exclusion. The bill provides clear and practical mechanisms to address that high levels of economic concentration that excludes small business and black South Africans from the mainstream economy. It gives the competition authorities powers to impose remedies to address the problems in the structure of the economy and to promote economic inclusion. The bill also deals with practices by dominant firms which leads to excessive prices, price discrimination against small players, and other abusive and anti-competitive practices. It's a major reform of the 20-year-old Competition Act. We received more than 60 submissions and proposed changes. I'd like to thank all those who took the time to write to us, and we're engaging the NEDLAC parties, business and labor, over the last few months. It is our plan to finalize the bill through Cabinet for submission to Parliament for consideration this year. In the year ahead, the competition authorities will investigate 100 cases of cartel conduct. They'll consider about 400 mergers and take on additional cases on abuse of dominance. I expect to receive and table in Parliament this year the outcome of 3 very significant market inquiries into private healthcare, into grocery retail, which of course includes shopping malls and spaza shops, and into communication data costs. And public hearings will be held in this year on public passenger transport and the cost of communication data. To promote inclusion, the IDC has committed to funding at least R1 billion a year to youth empowered enterprises and R1.5 billion to women-empowered firms. And if the offtake is strong, we can also draw on the wider resources of the IDC. I'll be working with them to increase the targets, but money alone is not sufficient. So the IDC has introduced a youth pipeline development program providing for pre- and post-investment support to ensure more young South Africans succeed. The department will monitor progress on the commitments in the Youth Employment Accord, and to address deep levels of inequality, government will engage with business and labor and also the IDC on measures to promote greater worker ownership of shares in enterprises and the inclusion of workers onto the boards of companies so that we build our own inclusive South African economic model and deepen partnership in the economy. To boost investment, President Ramaphosa announced a target of $100 billion of investment commitments over the next 5 years. I wish to welcome Mcebisi Jonas here today, one of the investment envoys of the President and previous Deputy Minister of Finance, who will work very closely with us. To improve investment in infrastructure, we plan to conclude an infrastructure investment agreement with major banks and insurance companies over the next 12 months. And we will also finalize discussions with the BRICS New Development Bank and other foreign banks with a presence in the local market. There's a call, Mcebisi Jonas, for you just to stand for people to see you. We will focus on the efforts to transform the construction industry with 3 large construction companies finalizing transformation plans, but we'll also bet for South African firms on the African continent. The PICC Technical Unit will provide support and assistance to infrastructure departments to help increase our supply of water and support expansion of transport, both rail and road links. To improve investment in industrial development, the IDC will over the next 5 years target 110 billion rand of new investment, with significant sums going to black industrialists, youth-empowered enterprises and firms, and of course companies with large women ownership. We must do more to promote economic inclusion and township enterprises. I will work with the IDC and colleagues like Minister Zulu and Davies in Cabinet, Minister Nene, to bring a package of support which will go to township enterprises to bring funds to entrepreneurs in townships. To illustrate our practical plans on investment, I want to point to some factory expansions that are financed or supported by EDD entities. This month in May, we will officially open the new Cisco steel plant in Cape Town, which uses scrap metal procured through the price preference system administered by the IDC. New factory. In June, construction of an ice cream manufacturing facility in Polokwane will begin, Limpopo. In July, the Beijing Auto Industrial Group expects to produce its first semi-locally assembled vehicles from its new auto plant in Nelson Mandela Bay. In August, construction will start on a facility to manufacture building insulation. In September, BAW will produce its first fully assembled taxis from its expanded plant in Gauteng. In October, production will begin of specialized tubing for the auto industry from the Capella factory. In November, Brewster Craft will commence brewing products from their facility west of Johannesburg. In December, expansion of the 210 Hotel in Sibasa, Limpopo province, will support tourism infrastructure. In January, Rietfontein Agri Partners are expected to begin milling of maize at the new mill in Free State. In February, construction of a freshwater aquaculture and processing operation for Karoo Catch in Graafrenet will be completed. In March, Bike expects to produce its first fully locally assembled vehicles in Nelson Mandela Bay. And in April, construction of the vanadium-based battery factory for Bushveld Energy will begin. So that just is a little snapshot of the next 12 months, taking a few examples in the limited time. To support local procurement, we've engaged a number of retailers, including Shoprite Checkers, Edgars, and Jet through Edcon, and Game, Dion, Macro, and Builders Warehouse through Massmart, and will conclude a procurement agreement with other retailers shortly. Last year, honorable members, H&M, the world's second largest clothing retailer, marketed a sweatshirt shirt with offensive language. When we engaged H&M in the weeks that followed, we noted that they imported everything in their stores in South Africa. Following their apology, and as part of reorienting H&M's worldview of Africa, we have proposed that they atone very practically by sourcing goods from South Africa, made by South African workers. They will have a procurement team in the country within the next few weeks to visit potential local suppliers, and we look forward to a constructive engagement. We're working with Ministers Gordon and Nzimande to ensure that Transnet and PRASA implement policies.
Thank you, House Chair. Apologies to the Minister for interrupting a well-delivered speech. I rise in terms of Rule 59, referring to conduct of visitors in the gallery. And I would request, House Chair, that you instruct our visitors while we welcome their attendance to behave appropriately. Thank you, Chair.
Order. I'm aware of that, and I will make a ruling when the minister is finished. I couldn't interrupt the minister. Please continue, Minister.
We are working with Ministers Gordon and Nzimande to ensure that Transnet and PRASA implement policies towards local procurement of rail lines and trains. The department itself will contribute to localization. For example, previously it's linked up black-owned Naledi Foundries, whose CEO, Sibusiso Mapatiani, is here today. Can I just see if he could stand? He's probably struggling to still come in. His factory and Transnet met, and the result of that has been a local order for 6,000 forged wheels, which were previously imported from China, now made here in South Africa. Through the department working with the Kucha IDZ, we displaced transformers that were previously imported and are now buying locally made transformers. Through a discussion with one of the large companies and government, we facilitated a new production line for the production of non-alcoholic beer. And through that engagement, Eskom and South African Police Services are now buying locally produced textiles from an Eastern Cape factory. This year, we've begun a request by sugar growers to increase the import tariffs on that sweet substance.
Point of order. Chairperson, again, I also apologize for disrupting the minister, but can we please, the guests
I
in
did
the
say I'll
gallery-
make a
but
ruling. The minister is almost finished. We couldn't.
Can you make the ruling now, Chair?
I will make a ruling just now. The minister
Chair,
is left
order.
as well.
Order. Chair, you are disrupting the House. The rules are clear that the gallery must not participate. So what is it to wait for? There's nothing to wait for. This is a matter of urgency. You cannot allow gallery to participate. You are disrupting the House. You are disrupting the House. Please don't do that.
Honorable members, I'm aware of that. Okay, the fact of the, okay, sit down, honorable member. Don't be excited, make a ruling. Honorable visitors in the gallery, thank you very much for coming. We welcome you. We are excited that you are here. But according to the rules, you are not supposed to participate in the parliamentary, when the minister or anybody is speaking. So don't clap, don't shout, don't whisper, or don't do anything. So we welcome you and thank you very much. Thank you.
This year, we have a request by sugar growers to increase the import tariffs, and we'll convene a meeting with the industry, drawing in black and white farmers as well as industrial users of sugar to identify ways of supporting local farming while keeping prices down. We'll work with Minister Zokwana and Minister Davies. The fourth industrial revolution is reshaping the economic storyline of the future. And as South Africans, we need to prepare for it, to shape it, and to ensure that it promotes development. It will change many parts of our economy, from retail and banking to how goods are produced in factories, to distance learning, to the provision of medical care. And at the base of this development is artificial intelligence. In December last year, we had a symposium, and what came out of this is we should not focus on building a 20th century economy when competitors are building the economy of the future. And there's a number of things that we'll be doing here. Honorable members, as I draw this comment to a conclusion, I know that the economic development budget of almost 1.1 billion rand can support our efforts at greater economic inclusion if we use it to leverage wider partnerships in the economy with business and labor and
Honourable
open up
Minister.
economic opportunities for the restless.
Honorable Minister, your time is up.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Order. Order.
Point of order, Slalo. Point of order, Slalo.
Can I address you again in the gallery? I did
Point of
indicate-
order, Slalo.
I'm still speaking, I've noted you. I have made a ruling to you visitors in the gallery. I did indicate that you are not allowed to clap, to whistle, to stand up when one of the members is speaking. You are not allowed to participate. We welcome and thank you, but please don't do that again, because we have made a ruling. Thank you.
Yabonge.
Honorable Mam
Sure.
Kaul.
No, bengithanda ukusho ukuthi angazi noma badelela wena yini ngoba bakhuziwe balobephinda. And okubhlungu abakwenzayo akudlalwa bhola la. Ngicela ubize amabounce abakhiphe ngempela. Ayikho indaba yabo lana. Azizodlala lana.
Thank you very much, Mam Kaula. We did give a second warning. Thank you very much. We'll now call upon Honorable Coleman. Honorable Coleman, before you start, honorable members, Honorable Coleman, before you start, can I also, another indication is that you are not allowed to take photos with your camera or with your cell phones. You are not allowed to do that. Thank you. Honorable Coleman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister Patel, and other ministers and deputy ministers present here, honorable members, DG, Mr. Tom, ITC Board Chairperson Mebusi Mabuza, the leadership of our economic regulatory bodies, Measures Mbinkosi Bonagele, Norman Manoim, and Meluleki Nzimande. The media and esteemed guests in the gallery, in particular the business and the trade union leadership and the members at large, of the public at large. I speak here on behalf of a team across the political spectrum that through this process has displayed a cordial and a general acknowledgement of the progress made by the department. Honorable Chairperson, the Portfolio Committee interacted with various stakeholders during the course of the 2017 financial year. We have managed through oversight meetings to bring matters raised during those interactions to the attention of the EDD and the public entities. We are happy to report that they've managed to incorporate those issues in their plans, and we've seen that changing the focus of these entities into more people-oriented and responsive entities. These members give us the hope that South Africa is on course with respect to addressing socio-economic challenges confronting the country and the plight of the poorest of the poor. The committee is fairly happy with the progress made and the plans put forward to enable both the department and its entities to continue addressing the economic challenges faced by the country. We are pleased that they followed in their plans what the African National Congress has resolved on in our December elective conference, in particular in the areas of fast-tracking industrial entrepreneurial development, protecting the local industries against anti-competitive behavior and dominance. Based on this, on behalf of the ANC, I speak in support of the budget vote for the Economic Development Department today. In the conference resolution, it says, the ANC's vision, I open quote, the ANC vision for the South African economy is guided by the Freedom Charter's clarion call that the people shall share in the country's wealth. The ANC is committed to building a more equal society in which all can find decent work and enjoy sustainable livelihood, I close quote. In welcoming the budget of the department and its entities, I wish to point to this, which provides the framework for all our efforts. We know that the global economic situation directly impacts on the South African economy. The global macroeconomic outlook has improved steadily since the time last year. All of South Africa's major trading partners are seeing signs of improvement in their economies, most notably in sub-Saharan Africa. This improved global outlook comes at a time when local investor sentiment is also improving. Though better than previously thought, and certainly moving in the right direction, these levels of growth will not be sufficient to create all the jobs needed to support the country's growing population, particularly for the youth and especially young black women. It is against this context that the work of the Honorable Minister, the department and the portfolio of agencies in the EDD family is very important in unblocking the engines of economic growth and helping to create opportunities for new businesses to thrive, which will in turn create the jobs needed to support our young population. The committee appreciates the work done in coordinating the efforts of the economic regulators, development finance institutions, the PICC technical unit, and the department. In the last year, there has been continued and excellent progress made towards reorientating competition policy towards employment and development outcomes. The IDC plays an important role in the space of economic development. We are pleased to see that the IDC has made significant progress in meeting the investment targets which the minister has set for them in 2015 during his budget vote, particularly those for youth empowerment and women empowerment businesses. The committee hopes to see the minister setting new and more ambitious targets for the IDC once these existing targets have been met. We do take note of the focus on corruption and the successes in the fight against it. And we want to urge that we keep the focus on clean governance, because if we drop our guard, this problem can come back and hurt the economy and jobs. Therefore, the call by His Excellency the President to deal harshly with corruption, both in the public and private sector, is warmly welcomed. The global economy is changing rapidly. The fourth industrial revolution will impact strongly on our economy. As many experts have said, this is not just a technological revolution, but a productivity revolution as well. South Africa's economy needs to respond with leadership to the requirements of this new economic age and equip our young people with the skills needed to contribute and compete. The department should lead the process that will see the country successfully navigate the waves of change that the fourth industrial revolution brings. This may require policy guidelines and coordination with relevant stakeholders in and outside of government to bring innovation to the forefront. The symposium on the fourth industrial revolution with the minister hosted in December last year was an excellent first step in bringing some of South Africa's most creative thinkers together to consider these challenges. And we hope to see more of this in the future. We also commend the IDC for resolving to finalize a strategy on the fourth industrial revolution, as they will also have a very important role to play in providing capital and support to South Africans that are ready to do so. In addition, the department must coordinate the strengthening of relations between our agencies, other government institutions across the board, and the institutions at the forefront of innovation in the country. In this case, the CSIR and the SABS Design Institute come to mind, with the latter strategically designed to bring our youth's innovation or innovative ideas to life. We'd like to see these ideas supported financially and otherwise in order to encourage local content development. The Competition Commission must also be supported in its role in ensuring an environment which allows small businesses and historically disadvantaged South Africans an opportunity to compete. The committee has expressed serious concern at the fact that the Commission's plans for the year speak to a need to scale back on some of the important work it has been known to do so well. This is because of a lack of resources, both human and especially financial. This includes the all-important market inquiries, which have proven quite useful in unethical and uncompetitive behavior in the economy. The committee also looks forward to receiving the Competition Amendment Bill for processing during this year. We expect that an amendment of this important piece of legislation will further add to the responsibilities of the Commission. One of the recommendations we make is that the review of the organizational structure at the Commission is supported and prioritized as a result. We have also urged the Minister to continue interacting with the National Treasury on this with a view of securing improved allocations over the MTF period. There are some areas we want the Minister to focus on. I'm not going to name them, but those who will follow my speech will go through them. Honorable members, in the year in which as a country we celebrate the centenary of one of the martyrs of our struggle in Umama Albertina Sisulu, it is important for us as public representatives to raise all the issues that speak to the struggle to build an equitable society, a struggle which includes the total emancipation of women of our land. As President said on his 28th State of the Nation address, through her leadership, she embodied the fundamental link between national liberation and gender emancipation. As we mark her centenary, we reaffirm that no liberation can be complete and no nation can be free until its women are free. We have urged our developmental finance institutions to ensure that the available resources are used to bring women everywhere in urban and rural areas into the fold of economic activity in our country. The spirit of renewed hope in our country means that the intergovernmental relations must be improved continuously so as to achieve the common goal of improving the lives of our people through a thriving economy. In conclusion, honorable members, the committee reports that it has noted and appreciated the commitment that further trade studies will be undertaken on continental and
Honorable
regional
Coleman,
trade.
your time is up.
We support the Economic Development Department
Thank you
budget.
very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Cardo.
Honourable Chairperson, President Ramaphosa has assured the South African nation that a new dawn is upon us. We are embarking, he announced in his State of the Nation address, on, and I quote, a new path of growth, employment and transformation, close quote. But with growth forecast at 1.5% this year, over 9 million South Africans unemployed, and declining business confidence levels, this new dawn looks set to be a false dawn. It is, in fact, only the brief, blinding flash of Ramaphoria. And soon it will be eclipsed by the persistent, malignant forces of darkness, namely corruption, cronyism, and capture that are part and parcel of the ANC's political culture. The Prince of Darkness, Jacob Zuma, has been banished to Nkandla. There, he tends his 1.5 million rands worth of cattle gifted to him at taxpayers' expense by the is-he or isn't-he Premier of the Northwest. But Zuma's legacy, state plunder, mismanagement of public finances, and economic decline still casts a gloomy shadow over this country and over much of this cabinet. And it will continue to do so until the sun sets on an ANC government and we see the dawning of hope and change under the DA. Chairperson, it is the role of the Economic Development Department to bring coherence to economic policy making and implementation across state departments. EDD must promote inclusive infrastructure-led growth and tackle unemployment by accelerating job creation. In other words, it must duplicate the functions of countless other departments in the economics cluster. President Ramaphosa has promised to review the number of national government departments in order to, and I quote, ensure the most efficient allocation of public resources. He should commence this process of fiscal fat-busting by applying his liposuction vacuum to the Economic Development Department. Its billion rand budget offers some easy pickings. EDD was one of a number of new departments fathered during the Zuma administration in a fit of fiscal incontinence and without much thought to family planning. To be fair, Minister Patel has been a devoted and conscientious guardian. Even though EDD has yet to reach old age, it is time new